All right, so this is warm-up that will go from about 190 to 210. And I will be questioning.
I will answer.
Okay, for the record. Now, I understand that you and your parents lived on that property all together, and then eventually I understand your parents moved off the land. Is that right?
Before they did that, I moved back east.
Oh, I see. Okay. Now, you were back east for how many years?
A year and a half, maybe.
And what were you doing back there?
Holding down different jobs, and I went to school.
Were you married then?
Yes.
Do you know how long you were married at that time?
What time?
When you left for the east.
I had just got married. That's when I left.
I see. Okay. So that is the first time you left the property and your parents remained there? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you came back about a year later, and where did you live?
I lived in my brother-in-law's trailer on Farmington Road.
And where were your parents living at that time?
Fargo.
Do you remember about how long you lived in that trailer?
3 or 4 months.
Okay, then what happened? Where did you move then?
Fargo Road.
I see. When you moved onto the land there, did you live in a trailer or the house or the cabin?
House.
The house that is there, is that a 2-bedroom house?
Yes.
And your wife was with you?
Yes.
And your children?
Yes.
Both your children born at that time?
One of them.
One of them. All right. Who was that? Which child?
My son.
Your son. How old was he then? Do you remember about how old?
2 or 3 months.
And when was he born? What year?
99.
1999?
Be 99 or 2000.
He is about 10 years old now?
He is 9.
All right. Now, were your parents living there also?
Yes.
And where were they living on the land?
In the house.
So both your parents, you, your wife, and your oldest son were living in the house at that time?
As far as I can remember, yes.
Okay. Now, my understanding is that eventually your parents moved from there. Is that right, or am I wrong?
They bought a trailer and moved, yes.
Where did they move to?
Wilson Way.
Can you tell me how long after that 1999 year that you moved in that they moved out?
No.
Any idea whatsoever?
No.
All right. They moved out in the summertime or wintertime?
I don't know.
Was your second child born before they left?
I don't think so.
All right. When was your second child born?
3 years after the first one.
Okay. So now they were living in this trailer, and where were they living?
Wilson Way.
I see. Now, did you continue living on that property for several years after that?
I am still living on it.
So once you went on there and lived with your parents and your wife?
I moved to Wilson Way for about 3 months or something like that.
Do you remember when that was?
That was just before we got the trailer moved out. I don't know.
Well, now let's backtrack a little bit. Your parents moved off the land, had a trailer?
Yes.
And they were living where with that trailer?
Wilson Way.
All right. Now, did you ever move off that land after that time when they left and you were still staying there on the property? Did you ever move off of that?
All we did was traded places. They moved into the house and we moved there on Wilson Way, and then we moved the trailer back on Fargo.
Do you recall when you traded places?
No.
You don't have an approximate idea at all, do you?
No.
Was it more than a year?
I don't know.
More than a day?
I don't know.
Is it your testimony that you can't recall if it was more than a day?
I am just telling you that I don't know any specific time when it happened.
I understand that.
It was surely more than a day, and there is no way I can tell you how much.
Right. I want you to understand. Let me try to help you. Maybe we can use that fire as a relative time. You do recall the fire that we are talking about here?
Yes.
The subject of this litigation?
Yes.
All right. And you were living on the land on Fargo?
Yes.
The time the fire occurred?
Yes.
All right. Now, is it your testimony that it could have been possible that your parents had moved back on the land at that time?
No.
Do you remember where they were at that time?
Wilson Way. Okay.
Your father travels during this time around when the fire happened. He traveled quite a bit, didn't he?
Well, if you can call back and forth across town, tuning pianos, traveling every day, he drove his car, yes.
He takes vacations quite often during that period.
It so happened he went to Los Angeles that weekend, yes.
What trailer park was that?
I don't know. It is on the corner of Sanguinetti Lane. It is on the corner of Sanguinetti Lane and Wilson Way.
Okay. To the best of your knowledge, then, during the time of this fire, he had a space rented out at that trailer park, a regular space?
Yes.
Do you recall him occasionally just driving his trailer onto the land there and staying for a little bit and then taking off again?
No, it is a 50-foot wide trailer. I mean, 50-foot 10 wide, and he wouldn't be hauling that around with his car.
Did he have any other trailer?
No.
Was there a trailer on the land itself on Fargo at the time of the fire?
No, he traded it in on the big one.
Now you say he traded it in?
He traded a 27-foot Schultz in on a 50-foot 10 wide trailer that he now owns.
When was he living in the trailer on Wilson Way? What trailer was he living in?
50-foot trailer.
50-foot trailer?
Yes.
And while he was living there on Wilson Way in that trailer, was there any other trailer on the land on Fargo?
No.
Did your father or your mother ever own more than one trailer?
Yes.
When?
I have lived in a trailer many times.
Let me clarify that. Did they ever own more than one at any particular one time?
No.
There is a cabin out there on the land also, isn't there?
Yes.
Is it livable?
Not at the present time.
Well, back when this fire happened?
Yes, it was new, practically.
Oh, who built that?
My dad.
Did you help him?
No,
How old was it at the time of the fire?
I don't know.
I know you don't, but I mean about how old was it at the time of the fire?
5 years.
Now, did you help him build it?
No.
What was it used for?
It was used for bedrooms.
For whom?
My folks.
A bedroom?
Yes.
There was 2 bedrooms in the house also?
Yes.
When he built it, what was the purpose? Was there more people living there?
Yes, he built that back when my brother-in-law was on there.
I see. All right. Now, so I have this straight now. At the time of this fire, this is back in 2005, you were living in the house on Fargo?
In the house.
Now, after that, did your father move back on the property?
Yes, after we changed places, and I come back also.
Uh-huh. Now, did you change places before or after the fire?
After.
How long after the fire about?
I don't know. Could have been 2 weeks to 3 months. I don't know.
Uh-huh. What was the reason for changing places?
They moved back in the house. We moved in the house trailer.
Was there any event that caused them to come back onto the property and you to take the trailer?
No.
Just something out of the clear blue sky between you two?
They owned the houses and they wanted to fix it up, and they did, and they moved back in it
When did they start fixing it up?
after they moved back in.
I see. Before the fire happened, have they talked to you about moving back in?
I suppose we mentioned it a few times, yes.
I see. They indicate to you why they wanted to move back in?
They own the house. It is their right.
I understand that. Just wondering.
No,
If they come out and visit you and talked to you about it, did they?
I wouldn't say we just talked about it. No, we could have mentioned it a couple of times.
Why don't you just tell me what was said about it?
I don't know.
So you were cleaning up the place, getting ready for them to move back in when this fire happened. Is that right?
Well, yes,
You were going to put a fence up?
we have put several fences up. Yes,
I mean, this is before the fire. You were planning to put a fence up, weren't you?
yes.
You were going to do the work, right?
Uh-huh.
Your father was going to pay for the materials,
He did, yes.
and that was your understanding with him?
Yes.
That was as a result of some talks you had with him before you actually did it?
We have always wanted to put a fence up. Yes.
So you had some talk with him about it before you started it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. There was an old wire fence out there, wasn't there?
Several of them.
You tore those down, didn't you?
Yes.
This was just a few days before the fire?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's that one. 200, but all right, we're going to do a little bit more warm up, and this will be at 210. Do you want to do the pages, or should I keep doing that?
Yeah, you can keep doing that. Does that bother you? Or are you good
No,
with
I
that?
don't know.
If I do the pages, it needs to be right here at the edge.
Yeah, well, and then the pages are all like
Yeah.
falling off, and it's like dragging the whole thing off.
Okay.
I don't know. Okay, and we're recording.
But I'll hold this.
All right, so we're gonna. I don't want to.
Oh,
there
yeah,
yet. All right, so this will be warm up at 210 for the record. State your name for the record.
Robert Lane.
You are the plaintiff in this case, is that correct?
That's right.
And you are bringing this case against the McDonald's Corporation?
That's right.
Have you been given a deposition before?
No, I haven't.
I'm sure your lawyer has explained what is going to happen. But let me advise you that if you don't understand a question, please be sure to tell me that you don't understand it.
All right.
What is your educational background?
I completed high school.
Do you have any degrees beyond high school?
No, I don't, but I did attend college for 1 year.
Did you ever serve in the military?
No, I didn't.
What is your marital status?
My wife and I are separated at this point in time.
Is there an action for divorce pending?
Not for a divorce, but there is a separation action.
Do you have an attorney in your separation action?
Yes, I do.
As part of that action, have you filed a financial statement?
Only what the judge asked us about when we went to court the first time.
In other words, you have attended some sort of hearing in that action?
That's correct.
What happened at that hearing?
The judge issued a temporary order requiring me to certain payments to my wife.
Do you and your children or your wife have any children?
We have 2 children, a son and a daughter.
Do the children currently reside with your wife?
They reside with my wife, yes.
To your knowledge, is she employed in any capacity?
She is currently employed, but I don't know where because as far as I'm concerned, it's none of my business.
Did she have to file a financial statement at that hearing?
They just took information from both of us at that hearing. It wasn't a separate accounting. It was just basically from both of us at the same time.
Have you and your wife entered into an agreement regarding your assets?
No, we have not.
Now, you run a McDonald's restaurant, is that correct?
That's correct.
I have requested that you bring certain documents with you today. Did you bring those documents?
I brought everything that I have. My accountant has some of the information that you might want. I mean, it depends on what you're going to be asking me.
It is my understanding that each month you send information from your restaurant to your accountant and he prepares the required profit and loss statement and balance sheet.
Yes, then he sends the whole thing back to me in a packet.
I am trying to establish that the information goes directly from you to him. There is no middle person.
No, there isn't.
One of the things we asked for was your personal financial records.
I brought my personal income tax returns for the last couple of years.
I assume that you and your wife filed a joint return even though you were separated?
That's correct.
All right. I asked for business financial records too. Did you bring those?
I have all my profit and loss statements.
Did you bring the monthly balance sheets that your accountant prepared?
Yes, but there may be 1 or 2 missing.
All right. I asked for any documents relating to your franchise agreement.
I brought everything that I have relating to the agreement.
Did you bring anything else with you other than the documents we have now discussed?
Not that I'm aware of. That pretty much covers everything.
It is my understanding that at the time you and your wife entered into this franchise agreement, you had a long history in the McDonald's system.
That's correct.
When you were in Las Vegas, Nevada, you managed 2 restaurants, did you not?
Yes, sir, I did.
So you had a lot of experience as an owner-operator before you got into your own restaurant, is that right?
No, that is not right.
Why not?
I was a manager before I became an owner-operator.
When you signed your agreement to open the restaurant in this city, you were familiar with the McDonald's system. Is that a fair statement?
Well, it probably took my wife and me a year to get used to the day-to-day activities.
When were you first advised that there was a possibility of a restaurant for you and your wife?
I would say about 5 years ago.
Had you asked for a restaurant in the Midwest?
Yes, I did.
Were you specifically interested in Wisconsin or Northern Illinois?
That's correct.
How about Michigan?
That would have been fine.
Were you able to choose one of those 3 states?
They indicated that sites in those 3 states were going to be available sometime in the next 2 years. They asked us to think about all of them. My wife actually made the decision to come here.
Are you saying that when those 3 potential sites were mentioned, you and your wife immediately decided on this city?
Our first choice was to come here. We took a couple of trips up here to look over the situation and to make a decision. We took out a subscription to the local newspaper so that we could get a fix on what was happening here.
Did you talk to people here, ask them questions about the business competition?
Yes, we did. We also got several things from a Chamber of Commerce that described the business climate in general.
Approximately how long a time was it from the time that you and your wife began thinking about moving here until the time that you opened the restaurant?
About 2.5 years.
So basically you had 2.5 years to kind of think about these 3 sites, to investigate them and make some judgments?
I guess you could say that.
Well, I am trying to establish whether or not you or your wife were knowledgeable about what kind of area you were getting into before you signed the agreement with McDonald's Corporation.
We felt we knew the area well enough.
Why did you want to get a restaurant of your own?
I had always wanted to have my own business, and this was a way of fulfilling that objective.
You apparently believed in the McDonald's system.
It's a successful system. It's made up of aggressive people.
Would you agree with me that one of the reasons the system is successful is that the food in every restaurant is consistent?
I think that's one of the elements that make the system successful. There are other reasons, but that's one of them.
And that's why the system seeks to keep very close control over all elements of the operation?
Yes.